Our last artwork for today is located inside the gardens behind the Palace of Versailles. The gardens themselves are interesting to note because they also exhibit the power and the prestige of Louis, the King of France. So I like this map here because it shows you the palace itself, and then these are some of the closer garden areas. Orangerie is where they grow oranges. There are some man-made reflecting pools, and this large canal here is a water reservoir. Now it's extremely big and very impressive, and it is meant to impress you because as you take in the splendor of these gardens, notice that they are all controlled into these geometric patterns and shapes. They are all laid out on grid patterns, squares, circles, hexagons, diagonals. They are all controlled by man, not just any man, Louis. The geometric pattern is not only there to organize the spaces, but also to give you these really grand views or vistas. So here, again, I need you to imagine that you are one of the aristocrats, one of the nobility, and you are lounging around on a hot summer's day, getting away from the stink of the palace, and look at these long views that the garden offers you. This is the Grand Canal. And the entire space is curated for your pleasure. What do I mean by that? Well, the gardeners hired for Versailles not only maintain the grounds, but they also plant and replant all of the flowers and trees depending on the seasons so that you could walk the same path and it'll have a very different experience in spring versus summer versus winter. So if you were to walk this path down in spring, there might be certain blooms that have been planted here versus when you walk this way in summer, there might be a tree, there might be different flowers planted here versus fall and you walk down the same path and it's going to have a different set of foliage. So every season is different and everything is under, yes, the control of Louis. Now, you can go to Versailles today. It's part of a national museum. You can take a shuttle from Paris. You have to buy your tickets in advance. But when you go, and of course, I'm speaking of this pre-COVID-19, but when you go, you can take tours of the palace or you can take tours of the grounds themselves. And again, imagine you are experiencing this as an aristocrat and you have this kind of unfolding as you turn corners and you see different views and different trees and different landscapes. Let's take a carriage ride and we're going to walk around or take our carriage around this bend here. Around this bend here, we will come across another pool of water. And on the other side of this pool of water, we see this scene. So you see what I mean about how the whole landscape is there or curated to hide and reveal these magical spaces for you. Now this little area here, imagine it would have been open and there would be a quartet of musicians just playing randomly in the middle of the garden in the middle of the day as you happen or stumble upon this scene. Let's say we want to go talk or plot against the king. And we're going to just gossip. So let's walk around this grass and there's a little area, this little rocky space right here. And then we come upon it. Oh, what? There's statues. Looks like there's some statues of two horses and there's something going on. Guess what? It's your next work of art. Huh? Yes, this is by François Girardon and Thomas Regenaudin. And the artwork we just stumbled upon here is the Apollo attended by nymphs in the Grotto of Thetis. So a grotto is a wet, rocky area, and that's exactly what we see, right? This waterfall effect of tumbling waves, and they fall into that pool. And so we have our grotto, and then the statue here is telling us, 1, 2, and the third out of view is telling us what is happening. Apollo attended by nymphs. Let's just jump over there. Let's just hop, skip, jump onto the grotto. What we are looking at here is the god Apollo, god of the arts, and he is being attended to by nymphs. You know, nymphs, those kind of forest creature fairy goddesses, and being attended to quite lavishly. It looks as if he's stopped his horses here for a rest. We see two horses and two horses. In fact, because we are French nobility, we're very familiar with Greek and Roman mythology, and we would know that Apollo is not only god of the arts, but he's also a god who flies on a chariot. And sometimes he is referred to as a god of the sun. And his chariot and he is often confused or is also seen as Helios, the god of the sun. A sun god. A sun king? What? This portrait here of Apollo with this, look at this nymph here. She's like, oh, you're so sweaty from being on your chariot with your horses. Let me just massage your shoulders. And she's bringing in fresh water. Maybe she's going to, give him a hand massage and clean his fingernails. And then, these two women here are bathing his feet. They're attending to him. They're catering to his every whim, just as you cater to your sun god, your king. Oh man, even in the gardens, you cannot get away from Louis. He's everywhere. Now, if this Apollo looks familiar, it's because you've already seen the references to him. Remember Apollo Belvedere, discovered in 1475? Albert Durer used him as his example for Adam. Bernini used him as an example for Apollo. Look at that. Same floofy hair, same body, very similar posture, so that you and I, the fancy French aristocracy, could be like, oh yes, that is little Apollo, oui, oui, yes, yes, and Apollo, the sun god, we are all here to serve our sun god, Louis, oui, oui, aha, ho, ho, ho. Like I said before, if you're starting to feel frustrated with Louis and the French, it's going to get worse with the Rococo, but I'm doing it to you, or I'm not exaggerating, I'm emphasizing these things because I want you to understand the lead up to the eventual burst of this bubble of hypocrisy called the French Revolution.